Hi guys, this is Michael over here, Millionaire Mentor, and I'm going to share with you right now about how to buy from the subsale market. So we've covered many areas of how you can buy properties. Right now, we're going to talk about the subsale market. So what subsale market basically is your secondary market. It is actually now finding properties which is available in the market right now. You know, there are properties that are already built, they've been there for 5, 10, 20 years, and you go onto a website or check from the agents, and you go and see the properties to buy. So today, I'm going to talk to you about the 3 good things about how you can find good deals in the subsale market right now, and also 3 not so good things to look out for when you're buying your next subsale property. Okay, so let's get into it right now. Right, so first 3 things. The first 3 pros about getting into subsale properties are as follows. The first good thing about subsale properties is this: what you see is what you get. The one thing I love about subsale secondary properties is basically what you see in the market is what you get. As a matter of fact, you go all the way down to the ground, the actual units are already there. It's already built. How old is it? How new is it? How refurbished is it? How renovated it is? You can all see it at the same time. So this is the beautiful part about it. There's no surprises. Alright, you can actually check for everything that's available over there, including the price. Are you buying it too expensive or are you buying it too cheap? You actually can get it on the internet, okay, on the banks, and even checking comparison with the neighboring properties around the area. So it's actually very straightforward. It's one of the most transparent way for you to purchase a property. So the second thing about subsale properties is this, that it is absolutely flexible. There's this ability for you to negotiate on the prices. So even though you actually see all the prices there, the best thing about a property in subsale is that there's ability for you to negotiate on the pricing. You can negotiate on many things. I'm going to give you a couple of tips right now. You can first negotiate on the pricing, of course, to see whether you can get it at a relatively cheaper price. Or number 2, you can even negotiate on the way how you're going to do the payments up to the total tenure of the time. Now, I know in most cases it's about 3 months for you before you can sign your SP and all. But in many of the cases I have actually experienced, you can actually negotiate even the timing to extend the timing or even shorten the timing depending on your preference to get the property as you want. Because the deal is this: you're negotiating with the owner in most of the times. And most of the time, it's up to willing buyer, willing seller for you to get the price you want, even at the time you want, or even under the terms that you want. So just understand this right now, in the subsale property world, everything is negotiable. Alright, number 3, best thing is this. The one thing I love about subsale properties is the fact that it's move-in ready. Meaning that whatever you see right now, okay, if you're able to buy a property which already is renovated, you basically can take your 2 suitcases and luggages and just go straight in and then unpack, and there you go, you're already there. You don't have to, for example, like in a developer, wait anything from 3 years or 4 years before it's completed, start to go and do all your renovations and install all your things to go in before you start moving in. Alright, or even in an auction property, although it's actually relatively fast, it's actually properties that are already ready, but you may have to go and clean up a little bit depending on what you get. The deal about auction, of course, is that you're unable to see the units, you're unable to inspect prior to buying it, so you may not be able to know what's inside. But in the subsale, like I said, when it's because what you see is what you get, the moment you buy a property which is already almost available for you to stay into it, in most cases, you can go right in and get started to set up your home. Okay, so those are the 3 good things about buying from subsale. Now I'm going to talk about 3 things that is not so good about buying from subsale right now. Okay, the 3 bad things about looking for properties in subsale is 1, DIY. Now what does that mean, DIY? Basically means you have to do it yourself. And I want to stress this out. It's not as easy as walking into a showroom as a developer, picking the units that you want over there, or going into an auction where you have all the list of available properties and still just buying the ones over here. In a subsale market, you technically have to search endless hours online if you're really fussy like me to look for the property that you really want. You have to match location of the property, type of property, and even the price of the property, maybe even to the condition of the property that you want, before you can actually find the ideal choice of what you actually are looking for. So most of the time in a DIY situation, you're probably going to spend anything from days to weeks to even months before you can actually find the property that is suiting your requirements. So I always tell people to always prepare to go the extra mile, especially buying in the secondary market. So point number 2, there is a lot of hidden costs when it comes to buying from subsale properties. Because why? There are a lot of parties that will be involved. Now, buying a property, as we know, it is not very easy. especially when you're taking the loans. So not just by buying and purchasing a property do you have to pay agent fees, you have to also consider getting in your bankers, your legal fees, your lawyers. Now when coming to buying from secondary market or subsale market, all of these are all third parties. You have to go out there to pay many other people involved in the process. For example, when you're buying the property itself at the beginning, you probably have to pay agent fees. Depending on where you are, in places like in Penang, the agent fees are shared between the buyers and the sellers. In KL or in Klang Valley, it's not so bad because most of the time, it is the seller who actually covers the agent costs. But then there are also other costs involved, which is the purchase of the property itself. You have a lot of legal fees that you have to come up with in order for you to get that property, either from the authorities or even from yourself, like the sales and purchase agreement, the MOT, which is the transfer, memorandum of transfer once you buy the properties. Don't forget, when you actually get the loans, there are actually costs involved as well, including valuation and even the legal agreements. So understand that buying from a secondary market is basically pretty good because you can see everything that you get. But by seeing everything you get, you probably have to do a lot of work yourself, a lot of running around and getting things done. My suggestion is to get a lawyer, a good lawyer and a good agent so they're able to do all this for you and get the runners to get all this work for you so they can reduce your legwork. Okay? So that's number 2. Number 3, okay, ownership issues. Now again, remember that you're actually buying from many different owners, so you have a lot of stories about buying from secondary market. Okay, number 1 is basically authorities. If you're buying a leasehold property, you may have to go and get the consent of certain authorities and therefore it may take a longer time, especially if it's leasehold, right? Or maybe you're buying from different, especially in Malaysia, Bumi properties to non-Bumi properties or vice versa. You may have to get authority consent or state consent as well. And then it take anything from 3 to 6 to even 9 months before you can get your approvals. Other than that, you could also have issues, complications with the current owners. Please bear in mind that some of these owners may have also a loan and maybe they have some complications with the banks. Working with the banks may take some time as well, so this may give you anything from a delay of 1 to 2 months. But last but not least, you need to authenticate the owners because sometimes you may get owners that are not fully representing the property. Aha, what does that mean? You may get owners who are actually faking it. Yes, I've seen some cases where it's close to a scam whereby they say that they're the actual owners of the property, but it turns out they do not own the property or they have never owned the property before. In cases like this, you need to make sure that you get a very good lawyer to represent you because there's so many things that can happen. Or it could be a joint ownership with somebody else. So it may be a different owner or joint ownership whereby you could have it with different partners, maybe a brother, maybe a sister, father, okay, or an ex-wife. In situations like this, it may delay longer because you may have a divorce case or maybe one of the joint owners has already deceased. So things like this may even slow it down. So summary, subsale properties are still pretty good to go into. It's just that you may have to consider a lot more legwork for you to do and you may have to have a little bit more patience to come in. Most importantly, I would recommend if you want to get a subsale property to always get a good lawyer to make sure they cover you so that you don't fall into all these traps over here and get your property safe. If you've liked what I've shared right now, like and subscribe and share to some of your friends so you can learn more tips on your journey to become a property millionaire. Okay, till the next time around, see you.